Okay, so this is the second video because the phone battery died. Now, we've done the maneuvering, and we have the Lizardmen in melee with the chaos lines. They're getting nice and muddled up now. Let's see if I can get this to go a little closer without dying. And you can see that there's a hodgepodge of charges underway. That comet that was cast in the last magic phase landed, did a couple of wounds on the juggernauts, actually fucked up a unit of pterodons pretty badly. The last guy's running away whimpering. And then basically it's a shit fight about to happen, and the initial charges that happened. What I have to do is charge this phone a little bit more and then check in at the end of the Lizardmen turn 2. Okay, well, at the end of the Lizardmen turn 2, you'll notice that there's a unit of juggernauts missing, slaughtered in full by these bastards on the charge. Not helped by the winds of magic nerfing all demons to only have a ward save of 6+. That's twice now I've rolled on the winds of magic, and that totally nerfed my fucking army. not happy, Khorne. Over here, there was 3 of these little birdies. There was also quite a few more bloodletters. Bloodletters had a difficult time wounding that dinosaur, but fortunately the magical weapon on the herald ignores armor, so I knocked a couple of wounds off it. And by some good fortune, I rolled a 3 on the leadership dice, which combined with the Bloodthirster's inspiring presence meant I didn't take any additional casualties. That could have been a lot worse. And now, over to the Demons turn 3. Right, so this is turn 3 for the Demons, and Winds of Magic were only eventful. Most of my units have charged. One unit of War Dogs has charged the Stegodon thingy, mostly to keep it out of combat with anyone else. These War Dogs have not charged. They're just going to stay there. This unit of Bloodletters has charged the Skinks. They're going to take a whole lot of casualties on the way in, but hopefully then run amok. These chaps are locked in combat, but they've got their ward saves back, so that'll help. And the Bloodthirster and the Juggernauts have both crashed into this huge unit of Saurus Warriors. This will be an interesting fight. And over here, this unit of Juggernauts plow through the trees in order to avoid this psychopath and his dinosaur here, who we were going to charge him, then I realised that would be suicidal and wouldn't achieve shit, so we've gone and ducked around him to set up some mayhem for the next turn. So now we're going to do some defensive shooting, followed by a whole lot of melee, and we'll check in after the close combat phase. At the end of turn 3, the demons are locked in combat with this fella, which is interesting because that blocks these juggernauts from doing anything useful. Locked in combat with this unit, killed lots of guys, but they passed the leadership. Over here, this very damaged unit actually chased a Stegodon, which is fleeing directly toward the table. If he doesn't pass, he's off the table. And the Juggernauts and Bloodthirster lost 3 wounds, but slaughtered, I think, about 10 or so Saurus Warriors. So hopefully we'll skip that up next turn. And that's it for Demon turn 3. We'll check in again at the end of movement for the Lizardmen turn 3. Okay, only a little bit of action in the Lizardmen move. His general and this dinosaur thingy turned around, ready to basically fuck up my Blood Crushers next turn. A swarm of snakes discharged into the Chaos Hounds. The Temple Guard, which have been pursuing that other unit of Hounds of Khorne, finally got a charge in on them. And the other units are locked in combat. You'll notice next to that unit of Saurus Warriors, there's nothing there. That's because that dinosaur that was running away continued running off the table. So I finally killed something of note. Right, that's it now. Magic, Winds of Magic. What do we got? 2d6.
Oh,
10.
lots of magic.
Oh, that's interesting. Let's have a look at what 10 is on the Winds of Magic.
That was high.
10. Chaotic Surge. All models with a demonic instability rule gain +1 bonus to their ward saves until the next roll for the Winds of Magic. Well, that's nice. I think I might need that. Alright, now we'll sort out the magic phase and the shooting phase, and then we'll get back to an update on where we're at. Well, I'm not going to complain about luck this game. My ward saves got buffed, and in the magic phase, they've got a slight buff on hex on one unit of bloodletters, who've got -1 to their weapon skill and their leadership. Probably won't matter. Then the other magic spell completely whiffed, and then all of the shooting completely whiffed. It's really not very much going the Saurus Warriors' way at this point, except for their staggering ability to soak up casualties and keep fighting. So we'll check in at the end of the melee phase. At the end of the turn 3 proper, that's the end of the Lizardmen turn 3. Right, so I'm still jammed up in this situation here, which is bad, because I can't countercharge into that dinosaur with my juggernauts, which means I can't break through, which means I can't outmaneuver the general and his mate, who are going to kill these juggernauts no matter what I do. That's most annoying. I'll have to sort that out in a minute. On the plus side, the dogs are actually doing pretty well and slowly wearing down their opponents. The Temple Guard killed the Fleshhounds of Khorne, and I had thought if they charged in and killed them all, they'd run off the table, and that would buy me a turn of grace. But that didn't happen, and I'd misread the rules, so that was my fuck up. Over here, the meat grinder continues. I keep killing skinks, but he keeps chipping away at the demons. That's not a good combo. On the plus side, over here, the greater demon and those juggernauts destroyed that entire unit of skinks, and what I did was, in order to get rid of the stubborn good fighty character, I issued a challenge, fought him one-on-one, smashed him with a greater demon, which just doesn't seem very sportsmanlike the more that I think about it. And that not only killed the guy, but it got rid of his stubborn ability at the same time. So between the greater demon and the juggers, it wasn't an outstanding round of combat, but it was still enough damage that they failed their leadership test, and those Saurus Warriors fled off the table. And the Juggernauts chased them and also ended up off the table, so they'll come back in my next movement phase. Which means I can't charge with them in the next turn, but I can reform, ready to deal with the Saurus Warriors who reformed to bring the fight over here. So it's still anyone's game, and I will check in again at the end of the Khorne movement phase. Okay, well the Khorne movement phase is very fast. These Juggernauts did the only thing they could do, which is to reform against the onslaught to come. Oh, that's going to be ugly. Greater Demon charged this unit in the back. That's the only thing he can really do. But because he's now vulnerable to a flank charge from the Temple Guard, I've deployed the other units ready to countercharge if those Temple Guard charge the Greater Demon. And if the Temple Guard don't charge, then I'll just have to do a straight down the barrel charge with probably the Juggernauts is the only thing that'll get in. But it's not as good a matchup, but we'll see how we go. So I will now check in at the end of the melee phase for turn 4. Okay, so the end of the Khorne melee phase. Lost a couple of dogs here, but we've chased off those swarms. Unfortunately, this dinosaur just keeps passing his leadership tests. And that's the carnage to come. Over here, that unit of skinks and croxigores, well, they had a greater demon jump on them, and the dice rolls were not favourable for the croxigores. So they broke and ran, and they were overrun by these the remains of this unit of bloodletters who are lying down so they don't fucking fall off the table. And the greater demon also charged that unit of croxigores, but he rolled just high enough to get off the table. So he won't be back until next turn, which is turn 5, and then he won't be able to charge until turn 6. Meanwhile, these bloodletters are sitting in the optimal position to get their asses handed to them by the temple guard. That will result in a counter charge, but it means more casualties for Khorne. So it remains anyone's game. We will check in at the end of the movement phase for the Lizardmen. A quick note on movement, and all of those dinosaurs are all ganging up on that unit of juggernauts. And over here, the temple guard have charged these bloodletters in the flank, so there'll be a bit of basic movement as the two character models shuffle to the fight. But otherwise, we're over to, well, there's not going to be any shooting, it's going to be straight to the magic. Yeah. And we'll check in at the end of the melee phase. Right, well, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, so we're going to call it a day. Over here, the temple guard killed off another unit of bloodletters, mostly through the morale buff they got from the flank charge, so that worked well for them. Over here, we have a funny situation because after we'd done the morale test, Emilio realised that he hadn't counted one of the special rules of one of his magic weapons, which would have accrued an extra couple of kills, or a couple of more wounds, unsaved wounds, which would have actually meant there's no unit left.
Yeah, so they couldn't save.
Now, and what happened is that when we did do the leadership test, I rolled Snake Eyes, which brings the whole unit back. All the casualties suffered that turn. All those wounds are replenished into the unit. So we got a funny situation where for a tournament, that unit would be back and on the table. In a friendly game, normally we'd let people go, well, hang on, I forgot to use a magic weapon, does a couple more wounds. But it does make the difference between a tie and possibly a very, very scraped through victory for the demons at the end of turn 4. But we're really only stopping now because it's 2 o'clock in the morning and we're both fucking wrecked. So the fight would have gone on with the crazy general, with all the dinosaurs versus what's left over here. Those guys, plus the greater demon. So really it's anyone's fight, so we're thinking we'll call it a tie.
Can I just say there that the greater demon would come back next turn, and you're basically facing 2 stegodons and my general on his carnosaur. So the fight would last a while. You're probably looking at multiple turns, and we'd finish the game turn 6, so I think we'd probably end up with a draw. And you definitely won the left flank, I definitely won the right flank, and we ran out of time.
We have run out of time. I think my 3-year-old is going to be up in about 5 hours and wondering why Daddy's not alert and perky. Right, well, that's it for this game. What have we learned?
Muscle versus muscle, and don't ever underestimate the Lizardmen at 3,000 points. The Stegodons did not disappoint. My general on his Carnosaur did not disappoint.
The guy's a murdering machine.
You did a good job on my Saurus warriors. Your greater demon, almost untouchable, but I've got enough to hurt him. But we ran out of time. So I'd have to say I didn't deserve to lose. I think this was more of a case of, I think we knew the result was going to be a draw if we both played a good game, and I think we both played a good game.
Yeah, you handled your right flank pretty well, actually.
Yeah.
I handled your left flank pretty well, but I didn't handle your right flank very well.
These guys deserve a special mention. Skinks on their own aren't very strong, but when you combine them, these fellas are quite impressive, and they had really good holding power. So they definitely were worth their point value.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think this is a game where you really need to know your special rules, because we tend to get caught out by little things that people forget. In a competitive game, that's what determines who wins or who loses. But in a friendly game,
It's kind of a learning exercise.
well, that's right. We don't
and
want
there's
to be
an element of great fun in it too.
we don't want to be bastards about it. We'd have a laugh, not to I don't know, fleece each other at the casino or something silly like that. Well, on that note, if you've liked this video, hit like, hit subscribe. Thank you for watching, and it's time to call it a day.